Another Shipp's Tips Essentials is probably one of the ground baits that I've probably missed over many years, is this Supercrush Green. Sonubaits made this. It's been about for absolutely years, and it's sort of an expander based ground bait but green. And we all know nowadays that sort of, if you want to be a bit stealthy in your fishing, you know, the fish come to like a darkish mix or a green mix. This is definitely one that is coming to my fishing massively over the last 3, 4, 5 months. Now, I obviously fish a lot of different venues over the country. One venue I fish in the winter is the Tunnel Barn Winter League. And I also fish on this venue as well, called Acorn Fishery. There's more carp in this one rather than Tunnel Barn. But I went to Tunnel Barn, and Tunnel Barn's been very different as well over the last few years. They've introduced quite a few smaller F1s, you know, and they want ground bait. The water seems to have gone clear during the winter, which is great. But introducing ground bait, it seems to be that trend at the moment for me, that everywhere you go, winter as well as summer, ground bait is becoming so much important, especially when you draw those tough areas. It's all well and good when when you're on a lot of fish, you're sat on a nice area of the lake, but on those areas where you're trying to catch is whatever you can, you know, to build the points up or the weight that you need to try and win your section or frame in the match. This ground bait for me has to be the one. And not just for, well, after having that so much confidence of going to places like Tunnel Barn and places like Acorn Fishery, etc., I've introduced this in some, because I was catching lots of skimmers at Tunnel, and I think anybody who goes to Tunnel probably knows, you know, there isn't that many skimmers in there, but I've been catching like 10, maybe up to 15 pound in some of my matches while I'm trying to build my weight. And I thought, I'm missing something here. I need to introduce this into my silverfish fishing. So when I'm going to a venue like Stafford Moor, Silverfish Festival, I've just come back from Riddings and a 2-dayer there, it's a no-brainer. I've introduced this into my mix as well. So I've introduced this not just on its own at Tunnel Barn, and you can put crushed expander with it, the normal crushed expander. You can put whatever you want with it. I've been introducing dark F1 and also some natural sort of deep water or black roach ground bait, because I think, you know, I try and look at things logically, thinking if I want to be a bit more selective in catching skimmers and bream, then I'll use this and maybe dark F1 if I want to darken it off. Or if I think I need to be catching some roach as well, that's when I introduce some natural ground bait like deep water or black roach or lake or something like that, depending on what you fancy. But the first thing I'm going to do is mix this up, because it's an expander based ground bait, and you can mix quite a lot of water with it because it does suck the water in. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to show you exactly what I do to mix this Supercrush Green up. Right, let's mix the ground bait up now. I'm hoping I got enough left in there to get 2 pints of ground bait, because I know how important it is for you guys to get measurements, because obviously for me, I can just chuck it in a bucket, add some water, go round and round. And this stuff, you can actually mix quite a lot of water with it. And when you first put the water in, it looks like soup. And you'll be like, oh my God, I've messed it up, but don't worry about it. So what I'm going to do, I'm hoping, because this is obviously the stuff I've been using when I've been fishing, hopefully I've got 2 pints in there. So use containers is really, really important. And it makes things really, really quickly for you guys on the bank. Obviously try and mix your ground bait up, you know, before you leave home or on the bank. Don't try and do it like get everything set up. Make sure you do this before you set everything up. So that's a 2 pint maggot container in there. Just get the riddle out of the way. That riddle there is the finest one at Preston do. Try and get one of those, especially for your winter fishing, because I think it makes a big difference. Stick that in a bucket. So 2 pints of ground bait. So basically, in a 2 kilo bag of ground bait, I spoke about this before, you've got 6 pints of ground bait, which is 2 kilo. Doesn't sound a lot until you mix it up. When it all fluffs up, believe you me, it's a lot of ground bait. Now in there, we've always said on most ground baits, you go 3 pints of ground bait to 1 pint of water. Well, on this expander, crushed expander and this Supercrush Green, you can go to 2 pints to 1.5 pints of water. So there's roughly 1.5 pints of water in there. Stick all that in, mix it around, and honestly, you'll be like, oh my God, I've ruined that. That is like soup. Just mix it around. Make sure you get all the dry ground bait mixed in. And this is what's so lovely about it. Obviously, I'm mixing this up neat. I'm not putting any other ground bait with it. If you put other ground bait with it, just go a little bit more careful. And you can see straight away, that's now starting to dry out. And all I can do now is start setting up. I'll leave this for sort of 10 minutes. I'll come back to it, push it through that small riddle, and I'll show you in a minute how it finishes up, even by putting that much water in it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievably easy to use. You can see how nice and green. You can see how already that is starting to dry out. And that's how I mix it on the bank. It's really, really simple. And it's a great effective ground bait when it's mixed correctly. So that's it, all mixed up. Obviously pushing it through that fine riddle, which is what I spoke to you guys last year about. I think it just makes perfect sense. Obviously when we get into the warmer months, you can just use the blue riddle, a little bit bigger, because we'll be fishing with bigger particles in the ground bait. But try and use that green riddle, because it makes out for the perfect ground bait. As you can see from that, that is absolutely bang on now. And it's one of those ground baits that you can't sort of mess up. That's what I love about it as well. And you'll find that with expander ground bait, or you know, when you've got a lot of expander pellet in your ground bait, you can't really mess it up because it's fluffy. But it is one of those. That Supercrush Green is one of those where you add that little bit more water, and you can do what you want with that. You can put it big pots in. I've been down to Whiteacres in a festival, and I've been feeding like 1.5 kilos of it on tough areas, and the fish come over at you. I was catching bream that you don't normally associate with Whiteacres on Twin Oaks and things like that. Caught like 20 pound of bream, and on a real tough area. And then all of a sudden the F1's rocked up, and I've come second in my section from like a real tough area. And that's what this ground bait's done for me since I've been using it. But there you go, you can see it's a beautiful ground bait. Lots of different variations you can do with that, whether you want to put it down the edge, whether you want to put particles in it for fishing for skimmers. But the most important thing for me is you can add different ground baits to what venues you're going to, but the smell is a real high fish meal smell, and I think that's what helps basically get the fish in your peg and puts more fish in your net.